Hey everybody, I want to give you some tips for the second part of Unit 2, the Introduction to Programming. So let's take a look at a couple things that I want to give you tips for. So starting on the page, and I'm only making one video, so whether you're looking at this version of my site or the InformNet version of my site, from here you're going to go to the Computer Science 20S page, and we're going to take a look at those assignments. So I'm just going to close this and go right to the assignments themselves. Okay. So here they are. Whether you're looking at the detailed list or the simple list, we're looking at these three problems and something called the case study. If you're on the InformNet site, same idea. It's these three problems and the case study. Those are the assignments that I'm going to give you guys some tips for, how I would approach them and how I would go about them. Now, also keep in mind, I'm just going to, for example, open up problem 1. When you read this problem, there's going to be a description of it, and then there's also going to be some hints right on the assignment itself for you to read on that first page, whether it's the first one or the second one. Here you can see the hints there, and the third one. So reading would definitely help, right? So if you read through it and read the hints, that'll help. But what I actually assume you guys would have done is you would have for sure done the example that went with this unit. Examples are going to be very important. So with each unit, there's going to be an example. There wasn't in the first unit because we weren't programming in the first unit. But by the second unit, there's an example to look at. When we get to our third unit, there'll be 2 examples. Each of those examples will take you through the process of what you'll need to know as you go to do the assignment. Plus, there's going to be lots of hints right in the examples themselves. So they're very important. So for those of you who might email me, I don't know how to do the assignment, my first question is going to be, well, did you do the example? Because the example is supposed to lead you towards the solutions. So whether that's on the InformNet site or otherwise, each unit's going to have at least 2 examples showing you how to do that. So that's the idea. You do the first example, then you can do a couple programming problems. You do the second example, then you can also do a couple programming problems. And then there's one more thing to look at. In the assignments themselves, okay, you will also find something for each unit now moving forward, something called a case study. A case study is an example. Now, a lot of students wait to the end of the unit to do the case study, which I understand, that's definitely something you can do. But you can also do the case study at any point along the road, as the case study is also an example. And although the case study is worth marks, there could be lots of hints in the case study to help you solve some of the programming problems. So when you open up the case study, case studies are designed to take you through step by step what to design, what properties that you need to change. So that's also a design thing. And then I give you all the code. So in the case study, you don't have to figure out what the code is. I give it all to you so you have the code ready to type in. So that's why case studies are only worth 5 marks. They're only worth 5 marks because essentially it's an example that's worth marks. So you have the one example, or in other units, 2 examples, and you have the case study. So you often in units have a total of 3 examples. That gives you a lot of hints, along with the hints on the sheets themselves, to help you with the programming process. Now, I can help you after that, but for a lot of you who maybe email me saying, I don't know where to begin, these will be the things I would want you to make sure you've at least tried first before you just give up and say, I don't know how to do this. These are designed to lead you towards the solution, okay? So all of those are there. Then each of the assignments will also then on the second page or the third page, or whichever, the last page, explain how you're going to hand it in for each of those assignments. So it's a step-by-step and set of instructions on how to hand that assignment in. Okay, so that's my first set of hints for you, is as you're going to do each of these assignments, okay? So if you're now into Unit 2, the Introduction to Programming, you have the assignments themselves, which have hints built into them. You have the example you should be working on. And if I've included a helpful video, you may want to watch that as well. So you have lots of little tips along the way, things you can use. If you're looking at the detailed list, there's even more things you can look through. So, and I have mentioned this before, but if the concept is really confusing to you, like now that we're starting programming, you don't understand the concept, now you should be looking specifically at the content sections to really read a little bit about what the concepts are behind what you're programming here. So this is the reading part of this. You should be going in, reading the section, part 2, either reading it as a PowerPoint presentation or just reading through the website itself to kind of get the concepts down. Or if you don't feel like reading, then I've also included a video that you can watch. That video is the concept video of what's going on in that particular unit. Here in this unit 2, still an introduction unit, that maybe isn't that important of a thing for you to do, is to tap into the content. But as we get further along into bigger units like variables, for which there will be tests, that will be very important for you to look at the content. Okay, so don't always skip past the content. Go directly to the example, or even worse, directly to the assignment. If that's what you're doing, if you're just going directly to the assignment, then no wonder why you kind of don't know how to do it. The order in which you do things should be, and I did post this recently on the InformNet site. So back, if you are in my InformNet class, you will know this, that I posted a list of the sort of order in which you should do things, right? Take a look at the content, then do the example, then go to the assignment. That's the order in which you should do this. If you're not an InformNet student, you can find that same set of tips, okay, on the help page of any site. Sorry, not on the help page, on the resources page, because I have my tips for doing assignments online there as well. So those are all the same tips in both places. So what you probably have then is you have an example that you did. The example I said in class where you built this, okay, you named it, you may have obviously changed it up a little bit, you tried it to see if it works, you realize it works, and most importantly, you actually have some code that you can look at to help you as you go in to approach these programming problems. So let me sort of walks you through the first programming problem to give you an idea how I would approach that one, and then I'll just give you a couple tips for the other programming problems. So I'm going to move this example sort of off to the side, start up Visual Basic from scratch, okay, create a new project. Okay, since you've already done this already with the example or any other examples or just trying it out, you've already got the settings in place for Visual Studio. You've already put those in. So I can just go next, and I'm going to start my first assignment, the introduction to programming problem 1. Okay, so I've already given it a good name, and I've picked a place where I want to save it. I want to actually capitalize that T. There we go, that's a little better. Introduction to Programming Problem 1. Does it matter what you call it? No, but you may want to find this later, so maybe it does matter. Click Create. Now, while that's open, I'm going to also open up the assignment that goes with this. So I need to look at that particular assignment. Now, why is that not the assignment page? Here we go. Okay, so whether I'm on the non-InformNet site or the InformNet site, I'd open up problem 1. Or if I was on the InformNet site, same thing. Okay, so I would go to Assessments, and here I would open up Assignment Problem 1. Whatever. This is the first programming problem, right? Let me get all these windows out of the way. Try to make this a little more. There we go. So this is the programming problem. So what I can do is read here about what the program describes it, and then try to solve it. At the bottom of the first page, as I said, there's some hints there. but there's actually even a few more hints you can get at. So for that, I'm going to once again go to both the InformNet and the regular site, go to the assessments page. A little slower on InformNet, but we'll get there. Content, assessments. Okay, so now we're looking at Unit 2. Okay, and here is a folder for the whole unit. But in addition, down here, you can see some more hints or some more resources you can get to. Why I would recommend opening the unit folder, or if I wanted to, that's the wrong course. There we go. Open up the hints document. Is again, I'm just trying to provide a ton more hints for you guys, right? That's not the hints document. That's the hints document. Okay, because on there, first of all, in the hints document, you will see the code again, the same code from the example, but this time it tells you which lines might do what and which lines you don't need to use in the assignments. So you can see here, this line is not needed in the assignments. You can see that written right here. So that tells you why that line has got a red line through it. This line shows you how to change the text in a label. So this line might be helpful in this first programming problem, because as I read this problem, I'm going to have to change it from the word hello to the word goodbye. So there's a hint. Now, when you go to the unit folder, what hints can you get there? Well, there is a folder called demonstrations that you can open up, because you can actually try these programs. You can download problem 1. Okay, it might think it's a virus, it's not. And you could open that and actually try the program. Now, it doesn't show you the code. That's obviously what I'm seeing you can do in the assignment. But it shows you what the finished program essentially could look like when it's all said and done. So there's another set of hints that you can get at. A whole bunch more sets of hints to help you solve this first programming problem. Okay, so let's get started with it. I'm going to need a couple buttons. A button, another button. You might think you need 2 labels, one for hello and goodbye, but you don't. You really only just need 1 label. We can change the text on the label. And I need a couple of picture boxes. 2 picture boxes for 2 different pictures. So 1 picture box, another picture box. Okay, I now don't need the tools anymore. I'm going to unpin it. Now I'm going to go in and change some of the properties. So this button will say hello on its text. This button will say goodbye on its text property. If you've done assignment 1 of this unit, you know what I'm talking about with the text property. The label, if I look at this design here, the original text property is essentially nothing in the label. Or if you're afraid to put nothing in there, just put a space there. The label's still there. It's just that it has no text in it. Okay? Now I need pictures for each of these picture boxes. For this, maybe I'll just go online and Google image search something happy. And also Google image search something sad. Doesn't matter what the image is. Could use whatever kind of image I want for happy or sad. Let's say that one. I have to save the image. Again, this is something you would have seen in the first one. This is going to be my happy image. I'm going to save the image. Actually, let me pick one that's a little more narrow. Oh, that's good. Let's go with that one. Save the image as something sad. So then sitting on my desktop should be a picture of happy and a picture of sad, so that they're sitting here waiting for me to put them into my picture boxes. So let's do that. Under image, import, happy, okay. Select second image, select it, import, sad, okay. Now if you want those images to stretch, you find the property called size mode and you set it to zoom. I'm going pretty quickly here, but this is something that probably you encountered in your first assignment in this unit. That was the purpose of that first assignment, was to get these things kind of a little bit easier to work with. So, by the time you get to actual programming, these things are going to go a little quicker. Okay, hello button, goodbye button. Okay. And you would also probably spend time changing this, but I want to speed this up a little bit. So now I have all the designs I need. I'm also going to select these two picture boxes and set visible to false. That way when I run it, they show up not visible right when it first starts. I'll give that a second to run. There you see they're not showing up. I want the buttons to make them show up. Okay, now the next thing, and again, this is important. If you've done this in the example or you read through the content, you know the next important feature is to name everything. So I'm going to select this picture box and give it a name up here under the property called name. Name appears at the top of the list outside of the alphabetical order because it's so important. Okay? So I'm going to name this pick. That's me tagging it with 3 letters. Again, you'll see that in the example and the content section. Happy. And obviously this one, I'm going to name pick sad. I'm going to name this button BTN, tagging it as a button. Hello. And this one I'm going to tag BTN goodbye. My label, which is kind of hard to find because I made it invisible. So I might have to click and drag. There it is. That label I'm going to name LBL display. Actually, how about I'll just call it LBL text. It's just going to have text in it. And finally, my form itself, I'm going to name FRM Unit 2 Problem 1. That's kind of a boring name, but at least I named it. I'm going to double check by checking the drop-down list of the properties window. And everything now should have unique names that I've named it. I've used the 3-letter prefix at the beginning to tag it. Then I use camel casing, upper and lowercase letters, to use the style that we've been learning to really give each object a unique, special name. If you're not taking the time to do this, you're already establishing a bad habit. I'm trying to build a good habit in your programming, so when your programs get more complicated, this is just a good habit you're already in doing. Now everything's named. Now I can start coding. But now, as I get started coding, this might be a good opportunity for me to tap into some hints that I could use. Some hints like on the assignment sheet itself, right? Here I've done my design, added all, so that's done. Here's a hint that I should have named everything, which I've done this too. So I've done this and I've done this. You only need 1 label. I mentioned that out loud, but that hint is really handy to know as well. So now, how do I turn on a picture on and off? How do I do this? So this might be a good opportunity for me to look back on the example we did together, or you should have done, because right here is a line of code that makes a picture become visible. As well, this is a line of code that tells you how to change the text inside of a label. Using that as a guide, it would help me to write code when I click hello. How would I write code? Now I don't need the properties window anymore, and I'm going to zoom in to change the text on my label. I start typing the name of my label. Because I tagged it with LBL, I don't even need to remember the whole name, because as I type just an L, that might already be enough for IntelliSense to register exactly what I'm going to be coding. LBL, there's really nothing left. It's LBL text. I can hit enter, it finishes the word. Dot, text, equals. Now, if you're wondering how did I know that, that was again by me looking at the example, or another place I could look. I'll just go to the assessments page again. Is I could look at this hints presentation. Whoops, there it is, yeah. And actually just look at this slide right here, which shows how to change the text inside of a label. So I could go directly to this line and get an idea how to do it. But let's go back, equals. So when I click hello, it's supposed to say hello, semicolon. Let's test that. I run this. I click hello, it says hello. Perfect. I also want it to make the picture appear. My picture, happy, dot, visible, equals true, semicolon. Once again, that is also available to you as a hint from the example. That's why it was important to do the example. And here you can see this line shows how to turn an image on and make it visible. So let's see if that worked. It worked, okay? So I can use that same logic to apply it to the goodbye button. And I could retype that, or I could even get fancy and do some fancy copy paste if I feel comfortable with that. I don't actually recommend that. I recommend you actually typing in the lines of code. It'll help you kind of learn them and get going on this. Okay, it's going to take some getting used to, but you're going to say goodbye here. This will be a different picture. This will be the picture, whoops, of sad that will become visible. So now when I click this button, sad, goodbye, it says something different and it displays a different picture. This is not completely done yet. There's still one more step to do that I'm going to leave for you to figure out by looking here and reading hints here to get an idea what else that program needs to do for it to work properly. But you have lots of hints there on how to get started on that. Okay, when you go on now to do the second problem, and then the third problem, and then eventually the case study, these will all be useful to you now. You can now use this problem, the one you just solved, as hints for problem 2 and problem 3. So the more problems you do, the more hints you're giving yourself how to do each of these problems. So you now have more and more references to look at. But let me give you a couple tips, okay? Some of them are written on the assignment itself. The case study is all laid out for you, so I don't really need to give you any hints for that. Just follow it step by step. I'm going to close that one, okay? Problem 2. Okay, this one here where you change fonts. There's a bunch of hints at the bottom there. So I'm going to do this. I didn't spend the time to make it perfectly, but I would go and I would put my name in there. Not mine, don't put my name, put your name. I would make sure I named it properly. This is like LBL, my name. And for one of the buttons, which I'm not going to bother, like this one makes it Arial. So how would I, this one's done. I'll move that one off to the side. How would I, by clicking this button, change that label to make it appear in the font Arial? So here again would be helpful to have hints. Ooh, look what we have down here. These two lines show you how to change the font of a label. So that's really useful for you there, okay? So I would use those as a guide to say something like LBL name dot font equals new font. Okay, pardon me. Now this is a little more of a complicated line of code, so really kind of take a look at which of these two lines would apply there. And I'd be, Arial, and then maybe just a 10 there. So that's just me mimicking kind of what's right here. I changed it up slightly. Instead of home, I put Arial. Instead of 30, I put 10. But would that work, right? And if that worked, would I be able to use that to then do, for example, the next button, Times New Roman? So when I go and try to do the next button, and I change it here to Times New Roman, get it right, spell it properly, okay, and use the right fonts and everything. Would that actually work? You're going to have to test this, right? Obviously, I'm giving you these hints for a reason, that this and this will affect it in that way, okay? And that's how you will eventually build up the different parts of this program. So that's some hints there. Use the hints and use what I'm showing you right now and build from it. If you get stuck, email me and I can help you from there. But those are some good hints for problem 2. Moving on to problem 3. So in problem 3, you're going to build your own test for this one. Okay, that's what you're going to do for problem 3. The same kind of stuff will apply, right? Read the hints and email me if you get stuck. Okay, so those are some great hints and some good guidance for how to work on the rest of this unit. If you have any trouble, just email me.